And the other thing is this. You know, you asked me recently to write an article for your magazine about George Washington, and we call it, Can George Washington Help Us Restore America? I had a surprising and kind of an emotional experience in the process of researching and preparing that article.
Hold on. Let me take a break, and then we'll come back, because I don't want to interrupt that story. Back in a second. With Andrew Ellison, co-author of The Real George Washington, a fantastic book, and also Earl Taylor, president of the Center for Constitutional Studies. Okay, so you said that I asked you to write an article about George Washington. Does he have an answer for us? And you said you had an emotional experience doing research.
Well, it really was, to tell you the truth. When my friend Jay Perry and I wrote this book, this was part of the project, but for some reason it just didn't hit me the way it did this time. You had a caller last week, maybe Friday, on your radio program. I think her name was Carol, and she started crying. And she said, as I see what's happening to our country today, I feel like I'm losing a child. And I understood exactly what she was talking about. And I've been going through some distressing feelings as I watch what's being done to our dear country. And when I read this statement, which I included in that article, it just jumped off the page at me. I'm going to make a plaque of this and put it near that Freeburg painting of George Washington at Valley Forge that my wife Kathleen and I have at home. But this is what he said: "If I have distressing apprehensions, I am supported by a confidence that the most gracious being who has hitherto watched over the interests and averted the perils of the United States will never suffer so fair an inheritance to become a prey to anarchy, despotism, or any other species of oppression." That gives me hope.
I tell you, in reading who they were, knowing what they created, knowing that these aren't our rights, this isn't our land, this is his land.
That's right.
Knowing that he'll protect, and knowing also the story. I mean, I pray every night. I got more than 5. I got more than 10. I know there are millions of people, God, millions of people right now who are falling to their knees and saying, okay, sorry, I got it now. I got it. And I just don't think that, we're going to have to pay the price, but we're not going to have to be, we won't lose in the end. We won't lose the country in the end. Who was it that said a minute ago that you were reading the founders and there's so much? Can you say that? What was that you said?
What I was saying was, after reading all the quotes of George Washington, people say they're outdated, but they read the words, it's like they're here now. If you read some of these quotes, it's so true to what's going on in our country right now. It's
really, I asked this a minute ago, and I think everybody raised their hand. Who is religious here? Who believes in God and religious? And it's really true. When you read these guys, it's alive. It's like, reading the scripture. It's like reading the Bible. It's alive today.
Right.
And it only comes alive when you need it. I don't know how many times I've read the Declaration of Independence in the past, and it's like, yeah, whatever. You read it now, and it's alive. You read the words of these guys, and it's
the same spirit you feel when you read the scriptures.
Yeah, it is. It is. Who else up in the corner? Yes.
What was George Washington's stance on the redistribution of wealth? Like, what did he think of taking from the fruits of one's labor and giving to another?
Do you want that?
Well, to say it short, he was absolutely appalled with that kind of an idea. That was socialism. And he was for the equal protection of property.
There is a difference between, none of the founders ever talked about social justice.
Right.
That's a 20th century term. Right. That's not a spiritual term. That's a socialist term that's been perverted in our churches. None of them were for anything like that, but all charitable. They believed in pull yourself up. Make your own way. Do you have anything that shows George Washington's charitable side? where he was helping others?
This man gave a tremendous portion of his wealth to care for the unfortunate, very tender-hearted for the soldiers that served under his command. Beautiful stories in
His wife went, we have to take a break, but his wife went to Valley Forge, and she would make them pants and shirts,
that's
right.
right.
They didn't even have pants, and she would make them. I guess they didn't have to have the government come and tell them how to do it. We'll be back in just a minute. Rob, in the front row, you have a question.
Seems that things never change. Andrew, I think you said earlier that Congress tried to weasel out of paying our troops. How did we end up paying for the war?
Well, the problem was that Congress at that point, we didn't have our Constitution. All they could do was make requests of the states to provide funds. And finally, they began to come in, you know, after the victory was assured. But it took a long time, and there was a lot of suffering.
Dennis?
I wanted to know, do we know who George Washington voted for to succeed him and why?
Well, the electors voted, and he wasn't an elector, so he had no vote.
He didn't vote? He didn't have a vote?
They weren't popularly elected the way that they are today.
Oh my gosh, how weird.
The electoral college is what elected him. And no public official can be an elector.
But who played the role of Acorn under that system?
It's in the book.
Who else? Who else had a question? Yes, sir.
This is more a point of information. First of all, thank you for the book. I love it already. You mentioned Valley Forge, and we're all familiar with Valley Forge. I wonder if in your book you indicate that Morristown, New Jersey, which is where we're from, was the military capital of the Revolution because of the strategic location between continental Philadelphia and British-ruled New York. And also George Washington and the Continental Army were encamped there on more than one occasion. Is that part of your information in the book?
Oh yeah, and you talk about a lot. I was surprised. Most people just think Valley Forge. Oh, it was a bad winter. Oh no. And it wasn't just in Pennsylvania. It was in New Jersey too. I mean, it was
2 years later, they went through the same thing again.
Horrible. And to think that these, you know, one thing that's in the book too is Washington trying to keep people convinced, losing men, freezing, no pants, nothing, and nobody's helping. And then they're like, yep, you know what, I'm done. My time is up serving. And the struggle that he had to try to keep people, okay, fight. One more round with me, will you? I mean, he was amazing. Truly the indispensable man, George Washington. On August 28th, I'm going to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to be at the feet of Abraham Lincoln and facing the Washington Monument. Everybody tries to fix the Capitol. I'm telling you, the Capitol will fix itself if we just stand between Washington and Lincoln and try to be those people, restore honor, and the country will be fixed. We'll be right back in just a second. The audience requested that I use the pipe, seeing that I'm with Egghead. Everybody in the audience is going to get a copy of this T-shirt, the Hope T-shirt, and everybody also gets a copy of The Real George Washington. Read this book. It's fantastic. You can find out more information at glennbeck.com and sign up for Fusion Magazine. You're going to get Andrew's article on George Washington. We'll see you again from New York. Good night, America.